Okay, perfect. Well, let's get started then. You've arrived, so we have a great turnout tonight, and thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Steve Harding. I'm the CEO of the Dartmouth General Hospital Foundation, and I really am so thankful for this great turnout to honor John Brownrigg and Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg. This is a very special moment. John had hoped to be here for this opening of the Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg ICU. But we promised him before he left us, Dave, that we would make him proud and also make Lorraine proud as well. So today we're going to talk about the new Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg ICU. We're going to get a behind-the-scenes look into the Lorraine Brownrigg ICU. And Lisa is going to be manning the PowerPoint presentation. And
bear with me here. There you go.
Can everyone see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So this is what the new ICU looks like, honoring Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg. This is probably one of the most advanced ICUs here in Nova Scotia currently. Here's a great photo of John and Lorraine. Amazing. We will bring them to life in this ICU. Here's a photo that we took of John with a photo of Lorraine on the table. This was in the Chronicle Herald, so we announced his gift in the Chronicle Herald. John wanted to be anonymous. He wanted to make this gift to the campaign anonymous, and he did make an anonymous gift after Lorraine had received tremendous care at the Dartmouth General ICU. She came to know many of the physicians and staff members in the ICU, and as did John. They were so impressed with the quality of care that they received, both first Lorraine and then John in the ICU. In the final weeks leading up to the campaign, John decided to make his gift public. He wanted to inspire others to give to the campaign and show what the power of philanthropy could do and what it could achieve. And I think he wanted to be able to see the impact that he was making while he was alive as well. Unfortunately, John passed away before he could see this in person, but we will remember John and we'll remember Lorraine. Dave, do you want to say anything about, you were here with us as well the last few months?
Right. Well, of course, we all know John wanted to be here.
Yeah. He really was trying to hang on to as long as he could. Yeah.
He sure was.
Yeah.
He's very appreciative. But he actually absolutely loved the foundation, and as we got into it, talked about it more. We wished he was here.
I miss John every day, and I really got to know John over the last few years, and I really miss those times with him. So sincere condolences, Dave, to your family, and we all miss John dearly. He was a great friend of the foundation.
Good, thanks, Steve. Yeah, he sure was. He actually enjoyed, he enjoyed your visits so much. But you know what COVID did to us every time we were around.
Yeah.
And believe me, I know 4 14-day quarantines in 6 months. Thank God when this is over.
That's right.
I would otherwise be there. As I was a year ago right now. I was there. I'm getting reminder pictures every day of what we were doing a year ago today. Going through the house, getting things ready for the inevitable.
Yeah, this is another example of COVID and the stress that COVID places on all of our lives. And when you're able to come again, Dave, bring the family. We'll get you in for a tour as well, and when we can see you in person.
Definitely.
We can't wait. So maybe now, with that, Lisa, I will turn it over to Dr. Natalie Cheng. Dr. Natalie Cheng and Cynthia Isenor are the co-site leads for the Dartmouth General. And we'll have a chance to hear a bit from Natalie and Cynthia beforehand. So Cynthia, over to you.
Thank you, Steve. As Steve mentioned, my name is Cynthia Isenor. I'm the interim site lead for the Dartmouth General Hospital, and I'm also the director for critical care services in the Central Zone. So I'm tremendously appreciative and very excited to be here and showcase the amazing work and generosity that has gone into the Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg Intensive Care Unit.
Great, thank you, Cynthia. Natalie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Stephen. My name's Dr. Natalie Cheng. I just took over as site chief in middle of April. It's been a pleasure so far, and I'm so honored to be here with you and to celebrate all of the work and the generosity that has culminated in what you're going to see today. It's been a phenomenal work. We're so proud and we're so happy to show you this space. I think you're going to be really pleased with what you see. You know, we just in terms of updates in terms of the renovation piece. You know, recently we completed the pharmacy upgrade area. The space is beautiful. We've got new call rooms. They're working on the diagnostic imaging areas, lithotripsy, and then on the 29th of June we unveiled the Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg intensive care unit, and we're really excited to show that to you today. So lots of exciting stuff going on. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you, Natalie. In this photo as well, you'll see Dr. Jorin LindenSmith with the stethoscope around her neck. Jorin, do you want to say a few words?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Dr. Jorin LindenSmith. So I'm the physician site chief for critical care at the Dartmouth General Hospital. And I've been working in the ICU at Dartmouth General for about 15 years now, and working on the design for this ICU for about the past 6 years. So it was absolutely an incredible experience in the last few weeks to see it completely finished and unveiled, and be working in a space that we've been trying to design on, pen and paper and computers for the longest time. It's really been an absolutely transformative experience, and we're only in our second week now of working in this new intensive care unit. But wow, what a major difference it's made to patient care. So thank you, everybody on this call today and other donors out there, for helping us achieve this.
Great, thank you, Jorin. In the middle, we see Holly Henry as well. So Holly, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Holly Henry. I'm the Health Services Manager. I work alongside Dr. LindenSmith, and I echo what she's had to say. It's been an incredible experience. I joined the team 3 years ago, so a lot of the plans were baked in at that time, and it's been wonderful to see it come to fruition. And the last 2 weeks, we've been able to see it impact patients and families, and so that's been even more exciting even today we got some positive feedback from the surgery team just about our location, and it's very exciting. I'm happy to be here tonight, and I'm excited to share it with you.
Great, thanks, Holly. And last, we have Lindsay Corkum as well. Lindsay, are you on the call? Can you introduce yourself as well?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Lindsay. I am the clinical nurse educator for the unit, fairly recently in that role, but I worked in the ICU at Dartmouth General for the past 7 years, and the last 2 years as the charge nurse. So I was involved in the process leading up to the last couple of weeks, and I just, just the same kind of feelings, just feeling tremendously overwhelmed, I guess, that the moment is here, and that we're really excited, and a little bit surreal that we're in the space and how amazing it is. We're very, as a staff nurse in the unit, we're very excited.
Great, thank you. And there's one more person in this photo. Who am I missing here? Jorin?
That's Heather Petto-Bolivar. She's the CNE for the Emerge department, and she had done some crossover to help support ICU during a transition period till Lindsay came on. So she's been a wonderful addition. She's not here this evening, but she's been a wonderful addition to our team, and she's helped also with I'll say relationship building in the emergency department. Now we're neighbors, so we're a little bit closer, and she's been incredibly supportive and helpful in the role.
Great.
Helpful with patient flow and overall operationalizing the unit.
Great teamwork, excellent.
Yeah.
So next slide, I think the next slide, Lisa, gives us our agenda, is that right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There it goes. So that's basically everyone's background.
Okay. Great. So maybe we'll turn it over to who wants to start on the layout of where this is located. Natalie, maybe Natalie can start in terms of telling us where this new Lorraine Brownrigg ICU is located in the hospital.
Yeah, maybe I'll start by saying where it used to be located. It used to
Oh,
be
good.
located up on the 4th floor, whereas all of this is the 2nd floor. So you can imagine most of the things that, most of the people that end up going to the ICU usually come from the emergency department, or a lot of them come to the ICU after a significant surgery. And so almost every patient was having to go down a very long corridor. You can imagine sometimes they were critically ill with breathing, like a non-rebreather, ventilator, going down a public hallway, up in an elevator. People might be trying to do CPR, or really, these are intensively sick patients. Having to go up into the ICU in a very far away department. If you wanted to get imaging, again, you had to go down all these corridors. So it was really not in the right place. Now it is very centrally located. I actually had an anesthesiologist raving about the fact that today he needed to send someone to the ICU, and is literally 30 seconds walk from where he was to get the patient over into a place that provides the kind of care that they need. So you can see the emergency department is up at the top corner. The surgical suites are on the left-hand side, and the ICU is nestled in right between. The diagnostic imaging is just down the hallway if you went straight down from the emergency department. So it's all nestled in a very efficient, convenient, and safer location for our patients.
Great. So why is that important, Natalie? Why is it important for it to be strategically located between the emergency
Well,
and...
I think there's quite a few reasons. So number one, I think patient safety would be the biggest thing in my mind. If something terrible is happening in an elevator, there's really not a lot you can do. So to have the proximity of that transport, trying to minimize it as much as possible, is key for patient safety. But I would also say patient dignity. You're not having to go down a big long hallway past a waiting room and such. When you're that ill, you don't want people watching you. This is a
Right.
personal event, and so this preserves patient dignity and privacy a lot more as well. And then the time alone spent, when you're critically ill and you need certain services, a few minutes can make a huge amount of difference. Time is muscle, time is brain, time is heart. So saving those few minutes can be really important. So all sorts of benefits to that.
Great. Big improvement. Awesome. Thank you, Natalie.
You're welcome.
So next up, I think we'll have Holly. Do you want to go talk a bit about where you are in this space? This is the brand new central area.
Yes, that's me chatting away probably. I'm in the nurses, I'm in the sort of the front entrance, the nurses station area. This would be coming into the unit. It would be walking down the unit. It would be on your left, and it would be in the area that we would basically a reception area. So the patient's family members would come through, be greeted by a clerk in this area, and then our nursing staff are to the right of the screen that you're looking at. That entire area is basically dedicated to healthcare professionals. So the interdisciplinary team, physio, social work, dietary, nursing, physicians, and that nursing space that overlooks, the units, and so that you have a good visual on the rooms that the patients are in. There's 2 murals in the department. One was pictured earlier with us in front of the Shuby Canal, and this mural here as well. And it's just so beautifully designed with the different colors of wood and the pictures and the soft earthy the palette for the colors. It's just a stunning space. When this picture was taken, yeah, there it is there. But when this picture was taken, we were still under construction, like we were still doing work in the area. So that's why it's a little yeah, there's things in the pictures that may not
Great.
be, that aren't there.
I love the City of Lakes theme, the photo contest that the foundation did to collect photos from the residents of Dartmouth. The City of Lakes theme comes alive here in this unit as well.
And that is the other, like that's looking at it from another angle, the same nurses station. It's quite a bit busier now with monitors in place and computer screens and the paperwork related to the tasks that we do. And it's quite filled with healthcare professionals now. But
you can certainly have an idea in these pictures of the amount of natural light that we have, which is really fantastic. You know, our old unit had a lot of windows and you know, had some really nice views, but had much lower ceilings and different sight lines and was overall much more cramped. But you know, in the top left corner of this picture, that's actually a skylight there, not a fluorescent light. Oh. And so many windows in the patient rooms and other different sources of light that we can adjust and dim and, you know, just make appropriate for the time of day and that kind of thing. And I think it makes an amazing difference to the type of work that we do.
And patient outcomes as well. I'm sure the natural light is such a big boost for patients as well. Great, next slide, Lisa. It's a beautiful space.
Oh, no, just another same shot.
The Shuby Canal.
That area there is the medication area. And the area where you can see the plug sort of in the back, that's all completely filled in now with a fridge and medication dispenser. A Pyxis is what it's called. And then the nursing team can, there's also a computer to the far right of that counter. The nurses can provide their, or prepare their medications there at that countertop. And everything is very accessible to them. And the storage is below is very well organized. Credit to Lindsay for that. She did a great job preparing the area for the nurses to come down on the 29th and start preparing their medications. It's a great space. It's very well lit and private. There's, you know, because it's important the medications that you're mixing, but also you have the freedom to come out of the space and accessible.
And maybe just to put it into some perspective, the space we had before was much smaller. As a nurse in the area, we were, the space we had to prepare meds at a counter was probably only a third of the space that we have there. And we were fighting over space to prepare different medications at the same time. And after working in this new space, it's been remarked by everybody how much safer and how much easier it is to prepare meds now. So we're all very happy with that space.
Great, excellent.
That's the patient washroom. That's on the, you can access that right when you come into the unit. It's on the right coming into the unit. Again, much bigger space. Able to do a 360 turn in there with a wheelchair. So much better for patient safety and for nurse accessibility.
Great.
I'll let Jorin speak to the consult room, but just even the pictures, they have the City of Lakes. All the rooms are labeled in this way, and they all have a picture of the lake at the top, and they are quite beautiful.
They are, yeah. The consult room is a little space that we did not have in the previous unit that I think will be quite essential. We're still waiting for the furniture for it, so we haven't quite moved in yet, but we can anticipate already it'll be well used. It's essentially a small room with a table and chairs and a computer that we can use to sit down with families to talk about the trajectory of their loved one's illness, sometimes having some tough conversations or making some difficult decisions, sometimes giving good news as well. We can also use it for teaching. So we do have medical students and medical residents that rotate through the ICU on a regular basis, and we'll have a space that we can access the computer and do teaching. And we can do multidisciplinary rounds as well. So a few times a week, we like to sit down with the bigger members of our team, so dietitian and physiotherapist and social worker and pharmacist, all in the same room to talk about each patient individually with their need, addressing all of their needs. So this will be a team space that we can also use for that. So we're really looking forward to having a dedicated room for that.
Great, another patient privacy feature for sure, giving more privacy to families and patients. What a great feature. Jorin, do you want to talk about the patient room? Give us an example of what a patient room looks like.
The patient rooms, I think, are probably the thing that's the most transformative about this unit. They are absolutely enormous compared to our previous rooms. And I said last night, I was on call and in there with the night shift nurses, and I said, you know, even a week later, can you remember what it was like to work in our old ICU, which we were very used to, and we did great things there for many, many years and decades. But these rooms are at least twice as big, and they're a variable sized because the unit is sort of an odd configuration. So each room is a little bit different, but all of them are just enormous as compared to the previous space. The ceilings are very high, and that makes a big difference in the feel of the space. And one of the most amazing things is, rather than everything being attached to the head wall, so right behind the head of the bed, you know, so the oxygen tubing would go into the wall, and the, you know, electrical cords would go into the wall, and everything, you know, the IV pole lines and everything would be there. Now we have those two booms, which are the white things hanging down on either side of the bed there. And there's Cynthia sort of demonstrating some of the features of them, but those are hanging from the ceiling. Everything that the patient needs is on those and can be attached to those. And so you can imagine you can walk right around the bed 360 degrees if you need to access the head of the patient to do procedures, that kind of thing. There's nothing really cluttering the floor anymore. It used to be almost a limbo type dance to get behind all of the tubing and wires to get to the head of the patient to do intubation and things like that we need. So this is, I think, of all of the many improvements, this is probably the most important one.
How much bigger are these rooms compared to the former ICU rooms?
I would say at least double.
Double,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Just to say, those booms are movable. So they're suspended from the ceiling, but they can be, with very little pressure, they can be adjusted. So if you wanted to move the bed to look out the window, for example, you can just move the booms and reposition everything very, very easily. So it's very flexible to meet the patient's needs.
That was one of the positives from last week. You know, it was a very busy week. It was a bit draining as far as like emotionally. You're excited and you're moving, and there's so much going on, and you're troubleshooting things and problems. And we had a patient that was vented, and with the bed, we were able to sit the patient up, and with the booms, move her and her ventilator over to the window to look out. And so the physiotherapist, you know, came over all excited. Holly, we've got the patient just how you envision, looking out the window. And I did get it a bit emotional, because it was like, okay, this was what we were aiming for. This is what it's all about, like the patient. And so it was one of them. It carried me through the next couple of days, because it was just so rewarding.
You can imagine when some of our patients are critically ill or sometimes palliative, that ability just to look outside and see the sun and look at something that doesn't remind you of your illness, you know, to look outside, that can be such a source of comfort. You know, you've lost some of the creature comforts like eating. You know, you may not be able to interact with your loved ones if you are unable to speak, but that ability to look out the window and sort of feel a bit more like a normal person, it can make a huge difference. So it
makes a difference for the staff too, because they feel that, you know, there's purpose driven. You know, it's very rewarding for them, and it helps with, you know, it has been a difficult 15 months with the pandemic. You know, there's been a lot of healthcare caregiver burnout and that type of thing. So it's nice to have that. It's very rewarding. And I know that another piece about the patient rooms is just the breakaway doors. And I don't know, Lindsay, if you wanted to chime in at all, but I know that, you know, we admitted a patient the other day, and we we pop the doors open. So basically, you're not going through a door with you. It's almost like it's like a very large patio door, or almost like a barn style garage door where you would open up the space. So the doors break away into the room. We slid the bed in, and next to the other bed, there's no trouble whatsoever. It was a breeze, and it was just such a gift to be able to just do that. And then we popped the doors back in place, and pulled the drapes so that we could continue on from in privacy to provide the care that was required. But it was very very easy.
Yeah, we're still really adjusting to the size of the rooms. I walked into the unit today, and the nurse had the patient right next to the bed in the chair, and because that was our norm before. We only really had a space next to the bed for a chair, where now there's so much more room, and we can put them closer to the window and make space for them, and we're not tripping over their feet to get to the monitor behind them. So it's really I think Jorin used the word transformative, and it's really been transformative in the way that we provide care, and in a way that we're still, because it's so early, getting used to all the different ways that we can do that now for the better. So we're very excited about that. And admitting patients, for example, before, the rooms were so small, if we were to order a special bed for the patients, sometimes we had to do it in the hallway of the ICU previously, because we had no space in the rooms for both beds. So, we have room for several beds in these rooms. So transferring a patient from bed to bed is just a really smooth process now, which is lovely.
Great. Jorin, how many rooms are there in total? How many patient rooms?
So there are 8, and there were 8 in the previous space as well. So that the actual number hasn't changed. It's just the footprint of each of them is huge. The other thing, which we don't have there yet, and because of COVID restrictions, will probably be a while yet, but we have space in the room for families. So, in an ideal world, and before the pandemic, we encouraged families to be with their loved ones as much as possible, and take shifts and rotate and that sort of thing. So now you can see behind us there how much actual space there is. So there will be chairs for family members, and the ability to have a cot. There's a little sort of closet area where some of the patient's belongings can be. These are all things we didn't have before, that just weren't an option. And if you've ever stayed with a loved one in hospital before, as I have, being somewhat comfortable is key to maintaining your resilience and your positive attitude through an illness. So
it takes the whole family to be part of the care. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be a great thing when we're able to do that again, hopefully soon.
Great. These are great pictures, great space. What's next, Lisa? Well, let's keep.
I don't know if somebody wants to mention the lights, and how important that is.
Yeah, so previously we had the fluorescent lights above the bed, and that's it. And so now we have countless sources of light. It's still overwhelming to figure out where the switches are for each of them and how they all dim and how they all play into it, but it's just incredible. I was in last night, again on the night shift, and the quality of the light in the evening was so soothing. There was all these different sort of dimmable options, and then yet if you need to do something that you require a lot of bright direct light and you're doing something technical, we have the lights that are pictured there that I'm holding, that are procedure lights that come down very easily on hinges and have different settings, and you can shine that right in the area. So if you're doing, some of the things we do, central line access, for example, big IVs in the main veins of the body to deliver specialized medications that can't be given otherwise, it's a technical process to insert those things and do that safely. And so now we have abundant light, and the procedure lights will be useful for, looking at wounds and pressure ulcers, and, for the surgeons to inspect their surgical healing. There's going to be lots of reasons that we're going to be able to use those lights. Great.
And it just might bear mentioning that in our previous space, we had a kind of an area that wasn't, it housed 3 beds, but it didn't have room. They weren't rooms. They were, they had drapes between them. And so, an intensive care unit is busy on often all hours of the day and night. And so there were elements where those patients didn't get proper sleep or rest because of the lights or because of the noise. And so now every patient in the intensive care unit has a private room. And so that'll help with some of our deliriums and just basic overall patient experience.
And really helps with infection control as well,
Yes.
which is something we're hyper focused on the last 16 months, but has always been important in the intensive care environment. So having completely separate rooms with all washable surfaces. So everything that's on the walls and the floor there is the standard of care right now. It's sort of state of the art, can be wiped clean of any type of germs, and the airflow and the ventilation in the unit is just going to be worlds different. So we can care for people with infectious illnesses so much better and protect the patients that are in there with a non-infectious illness from the other germs that are around in the other rooms.
Right, important. Jorin, I think there's a negative pressure room. Can we see that, Lisa? Is there a negative pressure room
Yeah.
as a new feature as well?
Negative pressure room is the biggest room. It's huge. It has actually 3 windows. It has a separate bathroom for the patient with a shower as well. So it's probably going to be the most coveted room. But the main reason it's there, and that's important to us, is that it can be a fully negative pressure room. And so air is sort of sucked in from the outside of the common space environment into the room, rather than air that might contain infectious illnesses being driven positive pressure into the unit. So there's an antechamber, which is a little entrance room to the negative pressure room to preserve the negative pressure space. And that's where we put on all our personal protective equipment and all that kind of stuff. Those rooms have been at a premium at Dartmouth General for years. And now that we have the new 5th floor, there's one there. That was the only one in the building until this one. So we now have 2 fully negative pressure spaces, which is a huge improvement.
Great. So the ante room is like an airlock chamber, basically, like on a space station or something. Is that?
Yeah, kind of like that.
The idea,
yeah.
Great. So with COVID, I'm assuming this is very important when it comes to COVID.
Yeah, very important with any type of airborne transmitted disease. Tuberculosis would be another one. There's a few, but yeah.
Great to have this. Excellent.
Each room has their own sink, which didn't have in the previous space. So again, infection control.
So not sharing sinks, that's important as well. Yeah.
I knew the clock was going to come up. The clock is coveted by every department that has come through, and I had to look at the space. Did you want to talk about the clock, Lindsay?
So we kind of requested a digital clock specifically because from a nursing perspective, not just for time, but for emergency situations, for example, CPR, we recheck every 2 minutes. So being able to recheck and follow time for, specific procedures, really, this glance is really much easier than the old analog clock that we had. And from a patient perspective, it's easily visible. So, for a patient with a delirium or may be intubated, it's easily visible for them to be able to see the time. It's very important to be aware of, night and day and so that sort of thing. So what you don't know, in some of the rooms now, there's a whiteboard that is underneath the clocks where we put the date for the patients, and we also put who their care providers are. So it's a great way to keep the patients up to date, I guess, so to speak.
Oriented.
So, yeah, oriented. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Great. Yeah. Very important.
I think that's it for our slideshow. Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. So maybe we'll throw the floor open to questions. Any questions from anyone for any of the physicians or members of the ICU team? If you want to just raise your hand or just take yourself off mute, if you have a question. No questions? I think we had a few questions before that came in. Lisa, do you have any questions that you want to ask?
I did. So after 1 week at the new space, what improvements have been the most beneficial to your work?
So I think you know, I worked in the unit on Saturday, and so I was just, you know, again, in the space in the room is just really a gift, because I don't think we realized quite before what we were working with, and now that we have it, it's a bit like Christmas Day. I said to Holly today, I said, it's actually like, you know, being a teenager and then moving out and getting the master bedroom. So it just feels like, you know, we've hit a home run in these rooms, and the patients are really, they really enjoy them. Both of my patients were sitting up in the chairs, and you know, we're able to have a family member visit, and they were commenting on the views, and it overlooks the baseball field that's by Oakwood, and some kids were out playing with their dog in the field. So it was just really, you know, really good day, you know, in the unit, seeing the benefits that both staff and patients are having. So it was really nice.
We've been in the space now for, well, it was a week on Tuesday. And I do feel like we've been there for 10 days, but because of the nursing rotation, like we still have nurses that haven't been in the space yet because of their vacations, time off, their rotation. So we're still continuing to work through like a feedback loop of like a little problem, tweaking it, and then moving on to the next thing. So even though we've been there for 10 days, it still feels a little bit like we just got there. We're still unpacking in, you know, in some ways.
It's like Christmas still like Christmas.
I should say, just when we were touring the area, some of the nurses were coming through as we were putting the finishing touches on, and everyone was just over the moon. I really had to say, the eyes were big. It really was like Christmas, looking at, you know, everyone that's come through. They've just been amazed.
It's Gloria McCluskey. I just want to say it's wonderful. It's beautiful. And Steve, it's a great topic for our interview.
Okay, we'll get Jorin maybe, and Holly and Lindsay is involved in this in your Destination Dartmouth as well. I think it's a great topic. You're right, for your
wonderful.
Viewers.
Thank you, Gloria.
We just had the Minister of Health speak about the Dartmouth General this week as well, and he said that Dartmouth General is the model for the future for Nova Scotia. So I know everyone is really proud of what is being accomplished. Lisa, another question.
Yeah, how did you actually move the patients from the old ICU to the new ICU? How was that last week?
Actually went quite smoothly. A lot of planning went into it. Lindsay was intimately involved, Holly as well. What we planned, so we have 8 beds, and that day 6 of them were occupied. And so we tried to almost double our team, to have a team in the new unit to receive the patients, and then the team in the old unit upstairs to do rounds and, you know, deal with emergencies and see consultations elsewhere in the hospital. So what we did is move some of the critical pieces of equipment first when we thought everything was ready, made sure that they were hooked up in the new unit and could function properly. And, you know, there's always some last minute technology glitches or things that can happen. So we had to make sure that that was all functioning. And then we sent one patient down every 30 minutes with a buffer in case things didn't go smoothly, but they actually did go fairly well. And so that's what we did over the course of the next few hours, is sent one patient with the teams upstairs and downstairs in contact with one another. The receiving team was there to take the patient. And then once the nurse was finished, the next nurse would come down and with the next patient and get them all settled in. So really by early afternoon, it was all done. And we were just clearing clutter out of the unit upstairs, and then actually had a new admission, a patient that became quite ill on one of the wards that needed to come down to the new unit early that afternoon. So we were in business right away.
Have any patients who commented on the before and after?
Yes, the first patient who came, he immediately noticed the difference. Just the brightness was one thing, and the size of the room, you know, was another. And and he was he was very, he knew that he was the first patient and that we were he had an audience.
There was a lot of fanfare when he came in.
Yeah.
He was conscious enough to somewhat appreciate the experience. One of the
VIP upgrade.
Yeah, big upgrade. The other patients that came down said, "Oh, well, will there be another patient in the same room with me?" Because there was such a difference in size.
Wow.
When we sent him the first patient down, we told the patient, you know, you're the first patient, and we got the thumbs up from them.
Yeah. And I have to say, I think most patients were down by 2 o'clock. And I remember about 3 o'clock kind of looking around and realizing that staff just went with the flow. They were just, you know, there was no glitch in their care. They just sort of it was like they literally went from one room to another and continued on. There was no real hiccup. It was kind of quite amazing, really, because I think I expected there to be some hiccups, but it was very smooth.
Great. I see we have a patient on, Maggie Archibald. Maggie, hi, how are you doing? I saw your note in the chat. Do you want to say a few words? Maggie's featured in our In Touch magazine and telling a patient story. What do you think from a patient's perspective, Maggie?
It's really nice. I obviously haven't been in the ICU, but I really like the natural light. And I remember when I was there in September of 2020 when I had kidney stone surgery. I really appreciated the natural light. Really was helpful in getting accustomed to the surgery space.
Awesome. Yeah, the natural light is making a big difference all through the hospital. So thank you, Maggie. Lisa, another question that came in?
So you mentioned about the isolation room. I guess if there's no patient, is that room dual purpose? So if you don't have a patient that requires isolation, you're able to still use that space. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have been using it every day since, because it is actually the biggest and brightest room. So it doesn't have to be a negative pressure room. It can have regular ventilation, and then we, sort of just flip the switch and it becomes a true airborne isolation room. So the majority of the time, we don't anticipate it'll be used for that.
Actually, these bigger spaces, I should add, are really great if we have a bariatric patient, because the bed, in some places, if the door is too small, the bed doesn't fit through the door. Have these large spaces that you can work around. It's going to really help, because these are the beds are a lot bigger, and you need to be able to still be able to do all the procedures that require that extra space. So it's going to make a difference. Great.
Another question, Lisa? Or anyone from the chat? Kiana, do you have any chat questions?
No chat questions yet.
Great. Lisa, how about you?
What are you hearing from patient families?
Well,
are you still limited in who can come into the space? Yeah,
we haven't had too many in yet. Hopefully we will. The one part that wasn't featured in the photos and it wasn't really ready on photo days is the family room. So it's outside of the unit, but just outside the doors. And previously we had a small space for families to be when they were waiting, for their loved ones outside the ICU, but it was a shared space with the 4 West unit. And that was sometimes quite difficult, because you may have several families that need to use that at once. And it's a tough situation to be in when somebody's really critically ill and it's very emotionally fraught to be in there with another family. So this is a dedicated room just for the ICU families, places to sit. There's going to be a little mini fridge and microwave and some sort of creature comforts, and it looks just as nice as the rest of the unit. Kind of blends in with all those same paneling and paint and all that kind of stuff. So it looks really nice. So when we're able to have more families, I think they will really enjoy that.
And this is apart from the consult room we talked about earlier, correct?
So this is just outside the ICU in the hallway. Yeah.
Great.
So it is really important for the families to be close. We'll try and temper their need for rest and the patient's need for rest with their want to be close. And so this will provide that space, because they can have several people. They can bring, the Tim Hortons coffee. They can make their coffee. We can have a bed that we can have them sleep. And then if something changed through the night, they could get some rest and we could just come and get them. We do have some families in despite COVID, because there are some of the restrictions allow for that. And one of the families members had been in our previous space and moved down, and like he just couldn't leave the space. He was able. I found that in the past, sometimes patients' families will feel like they're bothering nursing or encroaching on nursing, and they're not allowing us to do their care because it's so crowded. But he was able to be, over at the window and next to the bedsides at whenever he wanted. So he was quite impressed with the room. Yeah.
Great. So we'll get close to wrapping up now. So maybe, Jorin, maybe Dr. LindenSmith, you can talk about clinical affairs today. Holly mentioned there was a comment in clinical affairs from another team member about the early response to the ICU from the other team members. Do you want to mention that?
Was it from the surgical team? Maybe it was the
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
right.
so right now, as we saw on the diagram early in the presentation, we're nestled right in there beside the operating rooms, the emergency department, and then the radiology area. So when somebody's, we often have to send people quickly to surgery from the ICU and receive them quickly back out of the operating room. And so one of the anesthetists who would be in charge of, keeping the patient alive and sedated and all of that, just mentioned how much easier it was to wheel the patient just slightly down from the usual recovery room into their ICU bed, rather than have to take that quite harrowing hallway plus elevator plus other long hallway, many doors, that old transition to the ICU, which sometimes many things can go wrong in that period of time. So he was very, very grateful for that. Being right beside radiology too is just an immense improvement, because you can imagine the number of CAT scans that we need, the number of x-rays and ultrasounds and other things that are done on critically ill patients. So having that be right down the hall, as opposed to what we used to call the road trip,
Yeah,
is
right.
going to be a big improvement.
Big impact. Great. Thank you, Jorin.
One last thing I just wanted to ask about is that the Three Wishes program that the foundation recently launched. Does somebody want to just mention that?
Yes. And Lindsay or Jorin, feel free to chime in. Has been sponsored in part. There's been some money donated by the foundation, by the donors, and thank you so much for your donation. The Three Wishes was originally derived in Ontario. There was a physician there who brought it to. Basically, it started in Ontario, and what it was just about 30% of our patients in ICU can be palliated for one reason or another. Either they're not going to survive their illness, or they want to, and things just don't. It doesn't. The trajectory for the patient is that they expire with us, or we've decided that, as a team and as a family and as a patient, that this person is unlikely to survive, and then they'll be palliated. So about 30% of the population at any given time in any ICU can be palliated. And so it's a very sterile environment, although the ICU is beautiful. It's still, there's monitors, there's tubes, there's people that are dressed in PPE, and it's a very stressful time for families and for patients. And so the Three Wishes is an opportunity to offer patients that are being palliated that they could have three wishes. And they're very simple requests, and they make such a huge impact. And the cost of them is very, very minimal, but we are able to execute some of these things. They can be as simple as, having your pet join you. We have infection control policies around that, and we work with that so that they can come in. Or recently, once we started Three Wishes in our ICU, there was a gentleman who was not doing well, and he knew he was going to be palliated, and he wanted McDonald's and he wanted a rum. And so one of the nurses went and did an SLC liquor run, and and we got the rum and someone else got the McDonald's. It was a Big Mac, I think, that he wanted. And we were able to give him those, that, you know, it was probably his last meal. And he was so comforted by that. And so
Nice.
we are working with the auxiliary around some blankets so that we can have quilts to provide to people that are with us during that time. Also, there's the ability to, you know, do little ink pads so we can get a thumbprint and people can have a tattoo later on, or keychains. Also to provide sympathy cards after their experience with us. So we are working, it has been a little delayed, I will say, in how efficient we are at it right now, just because of the move. But now that we're in the space, and once we transition, like in another few weeks, we're looking forward to really ramping that up. We'll do some of our own fundraising, and we have a team of people that are involved in that, and it's a very exciting cause.
Beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that, Holly. What a great program, the Three Wishes. The foundations and the board, I know, was very impressed and pleased to help fund that.
Dr. Sarah McMullen brought it from Ontario. It was brought from Hamilton to Halifax, and it's done at the QE2, and then we've transcended the QE2 now here to the Dartmouth General, and we're very excited.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you, Jorin. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing, giving us some behind-the-scenes insight into the Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg ICU. Lisa, maybe you can bring up the photo of John and Elizabeth,
Sure.
or John and Lorraine again. And again, thank you to all the donors that made this happen. This is our goal was $13 million, to raise $13 million for the $150 million project. We raised $13.7 million, thanks to you and thanks to John and Lorraine for making this happen. John would have been so proud, I think, to see this come to life. And Dorothy, maybe we could, Marlene is with you, right? Maybe would Marlene like to say a few words about Lorraine and about the ICU?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Steve?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Marlene.
Oh, I'm 4 years younger than Lorraine, and she was really a wonderful sister. And John, they were so much in love, and I really appreciate what he did for the hospital. And I can't wait to go there and see it in person. Thank you.
Great. Tell us a bit about Lorraine. Marlene, tell us a bit about her as a sister.
She was a beautiful girl, and I don't know, she was very caring for everybody in the family, and she was my mother's and father's favorite.
Out of how many children?
There were 14 children in the family, and I am the youngest. I am the youngest, and there's only another girl and me left in the family. But Lorraine was a sweetheart. Got along very well with her, and we had lots of fun together.
Great neighbors. I know, great neighbors as well. Hi, Dave.
Yes.
Marlene, honey.
Hi, David.
Did you stand up so I could see you?
Okay.
There you are.
Can you see me now, David?
I can. Hi, honey.
I love you.
There she is.
And I think we had a chat.
You're a sweetheart.
We had a message.
Yeah, but
I think.
I don't know. Yes.
I think we had a message from Lorraine's niece, Carol, as well. Do you want to say a few words, Carol? She's in Saskatchewan.
Yes, my niece.
Hi there. Yes, we're just on the road traveling today, but I wanted to get into the Zoom meeting. It's a very beautiful space. Very proud that it's named after Lorraine.
Thank you so much for joining us. You want to tell us about tell us your memories of Lorraine.
Since we moved to Saskatchewan 50 years ago, most of my memories are in our childhood, but always fun times when we got together with Lorraine, and then And her first husband, Uncle Dick, is one I remember, but John was a wonderful addition to the family and was always very caring and took wonderful care of Lorraine.
Great. Thank you, Carol. When you come to Nova Scotia, please drop by and say hi.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dave, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
John's brother, Dave. What do you think about what you've seen, and tell us a bit about
Well,
your reaction?
I was there a few times, and I remember dropping John off at the Iron Gate at the main entrance because of COVID. And then, of course, I was at Emerge with him a couple of times and remember him having to be almost stuck in an annex room by the ambulance garage. And now seeing where the ICU is there, and I used to sit in the parking lot and wonder what those lighted rooms were up on the 4th floor. Well, now I know that's the old one. So it certainly looks like it's well situated and it's going to serve everybody. He was so happy with the treatment Lorraine got. It's just suiting.
When I had the opportunity to care for Lorraine and met John in that context, and then met him a few years later at a function that the foundation put on, and lovely man and so caring and so caring at Lorraine's end of life. I'm glad that we were able to be a part of that and to make an impact. That was obviously enough that he remembered us when
yeah, that's wonderful. He would be so impressed with everything, the rooms, and of course ICUs are so important. As you know, we've gone through our hiccups here, and we've shipped 40 people out to other provinces, so now we're down to 5 out. But the ICUs are jammed, so to see how beautiful those rooms are, and when most you see on TV look like closets, they almost look like Lindsay's office in the dungeon there. You got her there.
The ICU is so important. So the power of philanthropy, this is a tremendous gift by John and Lorraine, leaving a legacy for Lorraine, and we'll always remember John and Lorraine. Spread the word about the Lorraine Elizabeth Brownrigg ICU. And again, thank you to everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And again, keep Lorraine and John in your hearts. And we'll talk soon, and we'll be on deck again as the diagnostic imaging part 2. I think Natalie is our next key milestone for the redevelopment. So by the end of August, I think we'll have the finished diagnostic imaging space ready to show off to our donors as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day today. And again, thanks for joining us, and stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, honey.